Alright guys, a couple of days ago we did a tier list for ranking some of the best or most popular DC heroes. So today we're going to be doing villains. This list is roughly compiled of some of the most well-known villains. I tend to like villains quite a lot, and this tier list might end up seeing a lot more characters in the S and the A tier, more so than the heroes did. But with that being said, let's get into it and see what the tier list ends up looking like. So we're starting off hot. We're going right with Ares, and Ares is an S tier for me. I know at the end of the day, Cheetah will probably go down as Wonder Woman's arch nemesis. In all honesty, I just think Ares takes the cake. I think he's the most dominant villain that Wonder Woman might actually have, and I think he can be powerful enough to take on a setting of heroes, not just one character. And speaking of this particular character, next we have Cheetah. Now, I'm not gonna throw her an S, I am gonna throw her in A. I do appreciate the type of relationship that she has with Wonder Woman, this idea that Wonder Woman has in a way betrayed her. And Wonder Woman is one of the most honorable characters in the DC universe, so being accused of a form of betrayal is not going to sit right with Wonder Woman, whether it be true or not. And I also do appreciate the fact that Cheetah has stuck around so long after so many years and is still vastly considered Wonder Woman's arch nemesis. Even though I do disagree with it, I do appreciate the character a lot. I think she is vastly underrated when it comes to her power scaling, because she is crazy powerful. She's going in A. Next up, we have Poison Ivy, and I really like Poison Ivy. She's never been an S tier type of a villain for me, but she is 100% A tier. I mean, what's not to like about Ivy? Her powers, the way she's drawn, her persona, there's not really much to dislike. I think the biggest reason why I wouldn't put Ivy at an S is just because of her motivation as a villain. Very often there isn't much that drives her character to do what she does other than just the betterment of plants. Oh, there's too many city buildings, Gotham's becoming too technological, my babies are dying, I need to replace the city with my garden. You know, that's pretty much all she's got going for her. She doesn't really have many other stakes. Bizarro, this might be a hot take, but I'm gonna put him in B. I think he's good, but really at the end of the day, he's just this big dumb brute who I don't even think understands why he is a villain. I think Bizarro is a villain that works extremely well back in the 70s, 80s, and maybe even 90s. I'm not saying Bizarro doesn't work in comic books today. I'm sure they can still make him quite interesting. But when I look at all other villains in comic book history, I wouldn't necessarily be looking at Bizarro as a character for Superman to go up against. I just feel like Bizarro is one of those characters who was really good for their time. But regardless, he still has some enjoyability. Brainiac, we are throwing him right into S. And because S is the only row that we really change up, I'm moving Brainiac in front of Ares. I swear, Superman is notorious for having villains who start off as Superman villains, but over time they become so powerful and so badass that they could be Justice League villains, and Brainiac is one of those characters. I am a massive Mass Effect fan, so Brainiac to me is like DC's version of a Reaper. Just this galactic AI program that scours the universe, destroys alien species, takes alien species hostage, destroys their planets, takes their planets hostage, and harvests all types of information as much as he possibly can. Brainiac is a brilliant villain. In the previous video, I put Captain Marvel at C for DC heroes. I've never really been a big fan of Shazam, but I did say if Black Adam showed up for the villains, he would be higher. And he absolutely will be. We're going to be putting him at A. Black Adam is a far more interesting character than Captain Marvel, and the fact that Kahndaq comes with Black Adam, it adds a lot more to his character. Next up is Gorilla Grodd. This is another villain I'm putting up at A. Come on, Planet of the Apes meets DC. If you can't beat the Flash in speed, You're gonna beat him in thoughts. And come on, let's be honest, you can't outrun your thoughts. Maybe you can. I'm not too sure. I'm sure there's some science behind that question. But I just think Gorilla Grodd is so cool. Like, a gorilla is taking on the fastest man alive. Awesome. Professor Zoom, another unbelievable character, and because of that, we're going to be throwing him an S, and we're actually going to throw him in front of Ares, right in between Brainiac. If you're going to have Flash or a version of the Flash in S tier for heroes, you gotta have his counterpart in the S tier as well. I understand that there are so many speedsters nowadays, and there are so many speedster villains that just replicate the exact same power, but you gotta throw some respect on the OG speedster villain. Eobard Thawne is sadistic, crazy, egotistical, hateful, just a straight up villain. A lot of the times you have villains who do things for specific purposes and gains, and I'm not saying he doesn't, because his specific purpose is to go after Barry, but sometimes if you just want a villain doing things to do things, if you don't want to look at the Joker, you're gonna look at this guy. Now you have the other Professor Zoom, which is Hunter Zolomon. This is the one that doesn't get much attention. He's the Professor Zoom to Wally West's Flash. This Professor Zoom is still quite interesting, but not as interesting as the original. We're gonna be putting him in B. And actually, Hunter Zolomon doesn't even have super speed. He has like this vibrating teleportation ability or something that almost replicates super speed. So there's a little bit of a difference to his power. It would be nice to maybe get him used a little bit more nowadays, and then that way maybe he would be higher on my list. Now we got Weather Wizard, and this picture was so hard to identify because it just looks like Electro. But for Weather Wizard, I'm gonna throw him in C. I think he is a character who has a ton of potential. I think affecting the weather can certainly affect the Flash, but I don't have too many fond memories of the character. I barely even remember instances in which this character is used. I gotta put him lower on the list. Next up with Penguin, I'm gonna have to put him in A. I understand why people would put him in S. He's not an S tier for me, but regardless, he is necessary for Batman and the world of Gotham City. As much as we connect Gotham to Batman, you gotta connect Gotham to Penguin. He runs that shit. Along with his unique design, just comes with your OG mob boss type of a character, and who doesn't like mob bosses? Especially if you love mob movies, you're gonna like the Penguin, so he's definitely deserving of an A at the very least. Up next is Captain Boomerang, and I know this is gonna probably be bold for a lot of people, but I'm gonna put him in C. I've never been too fond of Captain Boomerang. The character has never been overly interesting to me. I don't think he's terrible by any means, but he is a character who's just there. Now we have Captain Cold, and this is a character a couple of years ago I would have thrown him maybe around C or D. Today, he belongs in A. His intelligence is not spoken about the way it should be, and also the fact that he discovered the coldest substance on Earth and utilized it for his own abilities. The guy's a genius, and I understand the idea of how do you let a guy like Captain Cold get to the Flash? How do you let him beat the Flash? I get it, he's too fast, but I'm just gonna say, if he hits the Flash with that type of cold, he's gonna do some damage. All right, we got another S character right here, Lex Luthor. And I'm gonna put Lex, I think right now, ahead of Professor Zoom. I'm gonna be completely honest with you here. I think Lex Luthor is not just a staple to Superman, but he is a staple to the DC universe. His intelligence, his power, his strength, the persona of the character, the way he's drawn, every version of Lex Luthor, there's always something about him that tends to be very interesting. Now we have the main man in Lobo, and I'm gonna put this character in S. I'm gonna put him right in front of Ares. Who doesn't like the main man? The guy's just cool. A space bounty hunter? Come on. And even sometimes when he's not a villain, he's still an S tier. Two-Face, another Batman villain I'm gonna be putting in the A tier. The way I described Penguin is the same way I feel about Two-Face. He is a necessity to Batman and Gotham City. And coming up next, this is technically going to be the fourth Superman villain to be hitting the S tier, General Zod. Let's go. And I think I'm gonna slide Zod over in between Brainiac and Lex Luthor. I've talked a lot about on this channel and many other videos about why I do like General Zod so much, and especially the interpretation of him in Man of Steel I think is next to perfect, if not perfect. I actually am one of the few people who likes the idea of evil Superman. Evil Superman is not something I would want my Superman to turn into forever, but it is an idea that I do think is interesting. And if you're not going to do evil Superman, then General Zod is a good replacement of what evil Superman would actually be. Another A placement, we're putting in Black Mask. As much as Black Mask can be a crooked businessman who's trying to take over Gotham City, he can also be a twisted, evil man. He's got a lot of range, and the character is capable of a lot more than people think. Black Manta is next, and I'm gonna place him in A. He keeps bouncing around right now between A and S. For now, I think the proper placement for him is gonna be A. And then another character I'm gonna join in along with Black Manta is Ocean Master, which I'm also going to put at A. See, the difference between Aquaman and Mera and Black Manta and Ocean Master is when it comes to the aquatic characters, I actually tend to like the villains a lot more than the heroes. I mean, the appearance of Black Manta alone deserves an S tier slot. Now we have Deadshot. Here's another one going into the A tier. I told you guys there's going to be a lot of S's and a lot of A's for the villains. A guy who can't miss, who never misses, who can hit some of the craziest trick shots ever, a guy who can bounce a regulation bullet off of 16 walls and still hit his target in the head. Not only does that make him cool, but what makes you really connect with the character is the love for his daughter. And you don't need to have a daughter to understand his connection to a family member. Main reason why he does what he does is, of course, he's talented. He's going to utilize these talents for payment, but he's doing a lot of this so that he can keep his daughter safe. And as much as I enjoy villains who just do things to be evil, I also enjoy villains who do things for a particular purpose. Now we got Harley Quinn, who's going straight up into the S, and I'm gonna put her in front of Lobo, behind Professor Zoom. Harley Quinn is a beautifully crafted character from her days in the Batman animated series, and thank God they continued to make her character after they found out how popular she was to the fan base. Coming in for another S tier is Scarecrow, and we're gonna put Scarecrow right in front of Professor Zoom. Another character we won't go too deep into, but come on, he utilizes fear. Look how scary the guy looks. Representations of him in the Arkham games or Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. The guy's dangerous. Wow, look at that, another S character coming in. Ra's al Ghul. And I'm going to put Ra's in front of Harley Quinn here. A man who's been roaming the earth for 600 years and tearing down civilizations to build in what he believes to be a better world. Come on, bro. And what a perfect fit for Batman. A character who believes what he's doing in Gotham is going to make it a better place. Ra's al Ghul comes around and basically wants to make Gotham a better place too, but through eradication. In a lot of ways, Batman and Ra's al Ghul have the same goals, but the way they achieve that goal is going to be very different. Here we have Steppenwolf, and I'm gonna put him up at B. Steppenwolf in Zack Snyder's Justice League is awesome. He looks menacing. The design of him is really, really neat. He sounds awesome. What he does in the movie is really cool. But other than that movie, I've never been interested in him. I've never really cared for him. The only reason why he's holding a B right now is because of how dominant he was in that film. If it wasn't for that film, we'd probably be putting him in D right now. And here we have Hush, which I'm actually gonna place him at A. Hush over the years has been a very growing character in which a lot of people love him and a lot of people want to see more of him. He's a character I'm even really hoping to see in live action one day. I think the Hush comic series is awesome. I think the fact that you have this guy in Hush who tried to gather all these different types of skins to make up the face of Bruce Wayne is absolutely insane, but so fitting to a character like Batman. Any one of these days he could be moved up to an S, but for now we're gonna keep him at an A. But for now, guys, we're gonna end the video here. It's getting a little bit long, and unlike the heroes video, I think there are a lot more characters to go through on this list. So we're gonna keep this as a part 1 and a part 2 situation, but as of right now, the characters we have dealt with, let me know in the comments below which characters you would put in certain sections, what you would change, and maybe what your list would look like in general. So that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.